Children, in this class, I am going to explain about the transporting plants. The chapter belongs to the second year intermediate botany. Okay, so actually the plants that require the water. So because of water is a universal solvent, so the plants are absorb the water and it is utilized for the many metabolic activities. Okay, so in the every cell, so the water is in a major portion. Okay, whatever you take, either it is an animal cell or the plant cell, so the water is mandatory for the life processes. So here the animals that have a special circulatory system, okay, that circulatory system that transfer the fluid from one place to the another place. So for example, in the human body, so there is a special circulatory system is present. So that circulatory system can transport the blood or whatever the liquid substances from one place to the another place. But the plants do not have any intestinal fluid, okay, and no circulatory system, okay, but they need to move the various substances, so like water, minerals, organic nutrients and growth regulators and etc from the root system to the shoot system or shoot system to the stem system. Okay, so sometimes, so from the leaf system to the shoot and shoot to the root also. So here mainly, so in the plants the water moves from the root system to the shoot and shoot to the leaves. Okay, so whatever the leaves which are involved in the photosynthesis process and synthesize the food material, so that synthesized food material is also moved from the leaf system to the stem and stem to the root. Okay, so that's why the plants are also involved in the transportation, so especially the water and food. So already we discussed in the previous first year syllabus, so the water and food transportation takes place by the vascular tissue. Okay, so as you know that the vascular tissue is mainly made up of with the two type of cells or tissues, so which are xylem and phloem. Okay, so the xylem is mainly conduction of water and phloem is responsible for the conduction of food material. Okay, just you see the peak here. So the water is absorbed by the root system. Okay, so these after that absorption of water by the root system, so these water molecules are moved towards the trunk, that nothing but it is the stem, and finally they are entered into the leaf. So in the transpiration the water is evaporated and reached into the nature. Okay, so here the water is transported from one place to the another place in the plant, so that we will discuss here in the plant. Okay, so here not only the water, along with the water the minerals are also entered into the plants, and these minerals are utilized for that photosynthesis, and the photosynthesis mainly they prepare the sugar molecule, and these sugar molecules are also transport from the leaf system to the stem and stem to the root. So here, which means, so the movement of substances, either it may be the water or maybe the minerals or maybe the sugar or any gases like CO2 and O2. So it can move from one place to the another place within the plant, or one cell to the another cell. Okay, so here the direction of the transport. Okay, so there are two directions of the transports are there in the transporting plants. So the first one is a unidirectional transport. The first one is a unidirectional transport. So here the transport of water and minerals in the xylem, that is a unidirectional. So which means, so water is absorbed by the root system. So which means, so here along with the water the minerals are also absorbed by the roots, and after the absorbing of water molecules by the root system, so the roots send the water to the stem and stem send the water to the leaves. So if the excess water, so that is transpired through stomata, so finally reached into the environment. So here the direction or movement of the water from only in a single direction, that is root to shoot, shoot to leaves, leaves to the external environment. Okay, so this you see here the transport of water and mineral in the xylem, so that nothing but it is called as a unidirectional transport. So which means the water molecules and mineral molecules which are moved from that root to shoot and shoot to leaves, etc. So now coming to the second transport, that is in a multi-directional transport. What it is? Multi-directional transport. Okay, so in the transport of photosynthesis. Okay, in the process of photosynthesis, so the plants have prepared the food material in the form of carbohydrates. So especially the sugars. Okay, so these sugars are mineral nutrients, so which are moves from one place to another place in the plants. So sometimes the leaves are involved in the photosynthesis and prepare the food material. So those prepared food material is moves towards the stem and also moves towards the root system. Okay, so excess amount of the food material, so in the form of carbohydrates, that are stored in the root system. So the root system becomes swollen in conditions and store it is for sometimes. So after that, what will be happen? So the plants require. So when the plants are shed their leaves, so at the time there is no leaves and there is no photosynthesis. So that's why the plants is utilize the storage food material that present in the stem and as well as in the root system. So now in this condition, the storage material which present in the root is also moves towards the stem and which is helpful for the formation of the new leaves. So that's why the organic compounds which are synthesized in the photosynthesis, so that are transported in multi-directional. So which means leaf to stem, stem to roots, and again root to stem and stem to leaf. Okay, so as well as the photosynthesis, so some other hormones, okay, plant growth regulators and chemical stimuli, so which is also transported in the unidirectional manner from where they are synthesized to the other parts. So here we given one best example. So the chemical stimulus, so that is an auxin. So auxins are mainly synthesized in the root system and that are moved toward the stem and they are mainly reached the stem apical portions and they shows the physiological response. So that's why the plant's hormones and other chemical stimuli are also transported in the polarized or unidirectional manner. Okay, they synthesized in one place and they move to the other place. Example, auxin is synthesized in the root system and they are transported to the shoot system and the shoot apical meristematic region, and these auxins are shows the physiological responses. Okay, so these are the directions of the transport. Okay, so how the transport is occurred in the plants? So is there any physical phenomenon or chemical phenomenon is involved in the transport? So obviously, so the transport means of transport, which means so there are different physical phenomena which are helpful for the transport of the material from the one place to the another place. Okay, that is mainly so the diffusion and facilitated diffusion, active transport, and also osmosis, plasmolysis, imbibition. Okay, so these are the various means of the transport that are helpful for the movement of substratum from the one cell to the another cell or one organ to the another organ in the plant. Okay, first here we discussed about the diffusion. Okay, what it is? Diffusion. Okay, so here the diffusion means so the molecules which are highly concentrated moves towards the lower concentrated region. Okay, the molecules which are moves towards the highly concentrated region to the lower concentrated region through a plasma membrane, so which is called as diffusion. Okay, so actually the diffusion mainly takes place in the gaseous. So already we discussed in the earlier classes. Okay, for example, the incense sticks, okay, or deodorant spray. So when we spray the deodorant spray at the one corner of that room, so the spray the disperse or the diffuse throughout the room. So incense stick, when we lit on the incense stick, what will be happen after some time? So the fog or the smell of that incense sticks reached every corner of the room. So which means so the highly concentrated molecules which are moves towards the lower concentration in gases. Okay, now coming to the facilitated diffusion. So here also the same thing is there, that is high concentrated molecules which are moves towards the low concentration, but so it moves through a specific channel. Okay, it moves through a specific channel, that is called as facilitated diffusion. Okay, now coming to the active transport. Okay, so here The active transport means the low concentrated molecules are moved towards the high concentration region. The molecules which moves towards from the low concentrated region to the high concentrated region. But here the ATP, so it needs an energy. So the energy in the form of ATP. So here the ATP is utilized for the transfer of molecules from the low concentrated region to the high concentrated region. So which is called as active transport. Active transport. So here diffusion through anywhere of the plasma membrane, the molecules which are moved from higher to the lower concentration region. So here the molecules which are moved from a specific protein channels, from the high concentration to the low concentration region. So here the molecules which are moved from the low concentration region to the high concentrated regions through a specific channel by the using of energy in the form of ATP. So it is called as active transport. Okay. So first we discussed about detailedly diffusion. Okay. So the diffusion, so it is in a slow movement of gaseous liquids and solutes from the high concentrated region to the lower concentrated region. So just you observe the figure here. Okay. So it is in a plasma membrane, and this region that have a higher number of molecules, that means the high concentrated region, and these high concentrated region that contain the many number of the molecules, so which are moves across the membrane towards the lower concentration or lower concentrated region. So this is called as diffusion. So here no energy is utilized for this process. So easily the molecules which are moved from the high concentration to the lower concentration across the plasma membrane. Okay, so it may be from one part of the cell to the other part of the cell, or cell to the over short distance. Okay, cell to cell is in a over short distance. Okay, so it is not depend upon a living system. So it is only the means of gaseous movement in a plant body. So we discussed the photosynthesis process. So in the process of photosynthesis, the plants are absorb the CO2 and release the O2. So depend upon the O2 and CO2 concentration only. So the plants are always take the carbon dioxide and release the oxygen. Okay. So now coming to that factor affecting diffusion rates. Okay, so the first one is a concentrated gradients. And if the both sides the concentration is the different, at the time only the diffusion processes takes place in the living system. And permeability of the membrane. So if the membrane is permeable to allow the molecules from the one side to the another side, that means high concentrated region to the low concentration region. And temperature and pressure is also important factor of the diffusion rate, and size of the substances. And so yeah, the smaller substances diffuses very faster. Okay, the small substances which are diffuses the very fastest. So next, the solubility in lipids of the membrane. Substances soluble in lipid diffuse through the membrane foxy. So actually the plasma membrane, so which is mainly made up with the proteins and lipids. So these are all molecules lipids. Okay, whatever the molecules which are soluble in lipid, so which is diffuse very faster, right? Diffuse very faster. So these are the few factors affecting the diffusion rate. Okay, now coming to the second topic, that is facilitated diffusion. Okay, so here the diffusion means the molecules which are moved from higher concentrated region to the lower concentrated region across the membrane, across the cell membrane, so which is called as diffusion. So here the facilitated diffusion means, so it is in a diffusion of the hydrophilic substances, so with the help of protein membrane channels, so this you see the pic here, so the pic which shows arrange, so it is in a protein channel. Okay, protein channel. Okay, so this protein channel can recognize the substance or molecule, that molecules only move from the one side to the another side of the cells, or outer side of the cells to the inner side. Okay, so here the mainly the transport proteins are involved here. Okay, without using the ATP energy. Okay, so as you see here, many number of the molecules are there. So here the specific carrier protein is there. So this carrier protein is attached to the molecules, and this molecule is transported to the other side. So that's why, so the molecules which present the outer side of the cells or entered into the inner side of the cells. Okay, so it is also needs the concentration gradient. So here molecules are higher concentration here. So here lower concentration. Okay, so it is also very specific because of whatever the protein channels or carrier proteins are present in the membrane, only those molecules are allowed from the outer side to the inner side of the cell. So that's why it is very, okay, whatever the carrier protein which is attached to the substratum, so that substratum or that substances is only allowed into the cell. Okay, so the cell select the substances for uptake, so it is very sensitive to inhibit that the react with the protein side chains. Okay, so the transport rate reaches the maximum when all the proteins transporters are being used. Okay, so whatever the membrane which contain many number of the proteins, okay, here all the proteins that are involved, so in the transportation, so at the time, so the maximum rate of transportation is takes place, that nothing but it is called as in a saturation stage. So for example, here the membrane that contain many number of the protein, here one and here also one more and one more, so these all are involved at a time. Okay, when it is involved in the at a time, automatically the molecules which are present at outer side, so that are entering into the inner side, so it is called as facilitated diffusion. Facilitated diffusion. Okay, so just you see that here it is in a protein channel. Okay, the protein channel, nothing but it is called as an aquaporin. Okay, the protein channel which is used for the allowing of water molecules inside the cell, so which is called as aquaporin. Okay, here some protein channels are always open, other can be controlled, some are large sized, example which are called as porins. Okay, so whatever the protein channel, so some are can be controlled. If the cell required some of the material, at the time the protein cell channel is open. So if the cell do not contain or do not require any kind of that particular material, automatically the protein channel will be closed here. So that's why some of the protein channels are can be controlled and some of the protein channels are always open. So which are called as porins. Okay, so the porins are nothing but they are use pores that are present in the outer membranes of the plastids and also present in the mitochondria and some bacteria. Okay, molecules having size of the small proteins can pass through them. So just you see the pic here. So it is in a water molecule. So it is in a specific channel for the entry of water molecule into the inside the cell. Okay, so here the extracellular molecules binds to the transport protein, and then it rotates and release the molecules inside the cell. Okay, so just you see it is in a protein that present in the cell membrane, and this cell membrane protein is attached to the water molecule, and when it is rotate, automatically these water molecules are entered into the cell. Okay, here the water molecules are more and here it is the cell. So these water molecules are attached to the protein channel, and this protein channel can rotate, automatically the water molecules that are entered into the inside of the cell. Okay, so which are also called as water channel. Okay, a water channel that is made up with the 8 type of aquaporins. Okay, so now coming to the next step. So passive, unisymport and antiports. So how the molecules are transported from the one side to the other side involving the cell membrane. Okay, here the uniport means, this you see here, here the molecule A is present. So this molecule A is transported across the membrane from one side to the another side only. Okay, the molecule move alone across the membrane through the transporter carrier protein, so it is called as uniport. Just you see here, here the A is a molecule. So this A molecule is transported with the help of carrier protein from one side to the another side only. From one side to the another side only. Only the single molecule is involved here by a carrier protein to transport from the outer side to the inside. That is called as uniport. Coming Coming to the next one, antipode. So here the carrier protein, so that have any two sides. So here the A molecule attached here and the B molecule is attached to inner side. Okay, so here the B molecules are moved from the inwards to the outwards and the A molecules are transported from the outwards to the inwards of the cell. So at a time both molecules are attached to the carrier protein. When the carrier protein is rotated, the A molecule is entered into the inside and the B molecules are exit from the cell towards the outside. So here the two molecules are moves in opposite direction, which is called as antipode. And third one is an symport. Symport means, so here the carrier protein is attached to the various kinds of molecule because of the protein having a site. So that site can bind with that A molecule and B molecules at the outside, and these two molecules are at a time entered into the cell towards the inside. So that nothing but it is called as symport. So which means the two molecules together cross the membrane in a same direction. Okay, uniport, single molecule in single direction across the membrane with the help of carrier protein. Coming to the antiport, two molecules in opposite direction. And coming to the symport, two molecules together cross the membranes in a same direction. Same direction. Okay, so the third one is an active transport. Active transport. So just you see here, if the plasma membrane is there, commonly the molecules which are having higher concentration, it here lower concentration. But so these lower concentration molecules are moved towards the higher concentration. So that's why, so it is the transport of molecules against the concentration gradient from the lower to the higher. The commonly diffusion and facilitated diffusion, the molecules are which are moved from higher concentrated region to the lower concentrated region. But in the active transport, so transport of molecules against to the concentration gradation. So which means which move from lower concentrated region towards the higher concentrated region through a specific carrier protein by the using of energy. So that energy comes from the ATP molecule. Okay, so it is carried out by the membrane protein, and the pumps are proteins that are use the energy to substances across the membrane, so which is also called as uphill transport. What it is called? Uphill transport. So which means the molecules from lower concentration which moves towards the higher concentration through a membrane by the using of ATP molecule is called as uphill transport. So here the transport rate reaches maximum when all the proteins transporter are being used. So when the more number of the protein channels which are present in the plasma membranes are being used at a time, so nothing but it is called as in a saturation stage. So at that time the royal concentration molecules that are moved towards the higher concentration region side. So this is also a carrier protein is in a very specific. So because of your one molecule is there, so this molecule is only transported to the a very specific protein molecule, but nothing but it is in a carrier protein. That way the carrier protein is in a very specific, and these are also sensitive to inhibitor that react with only protein by side by chains. Okay, so here the comparison of different transport processes. So here the required membrane proteins. So there is no require of the membrane protein in the simple diffusion because of the molecules are across the membranes from the anywhere. Okay, anywhere of the plasma membrane, the molecules are across, are transported from the higher concentration to the lower concentration. So in the facilitated transport, the proteins or carrier proteins are needed. Carrier proteins are needed. So in the active transport also the carrier proteins are needed. So coming to the highly selective, so no, and here the carrier proteins are yes, and here the carrier proteins are yes. The transport saturates, so no proteins are involved here. Here carrier proteins are involved and involved here. So the uphill transport and no protein is involved, and here there are also no protein is involved. So here only the S. So which means, so in the uphill transport the molecules which are moved from the lower concentration to the higher concentration. Okay, and requiring of energy molecules, the movement of molecules from the one place to the other place. So simple diffusion and facilitated transport not required any ATP molecule, only the active transport that need the energy, so in the form of ATP for the movement of molecules from lower concentrated region to the higher concentration region. Okay, thank you. So in the next class I'm going to explain about the plant water relations, especially the water potential, that nothing but it is an osmotic potential, solute potential and nitric potential, and etc, etc. Thank you very much.